Hello, Sanu Hujambo Salam. I'm Tembekile Mkhototo, and this is Unwrap Africa. Siyaqaqa. Bring you the highlights from this week in just a moment, but first, what we want to know this evening are your thoughts on the decision by the Zambian President Edgar Lungu's family to bury him in South Africa. This is amid disagreements between themselves and the Zambian government over the funeral arrangements. Send us your comments on voice note. The WhatsApp number is 078-459-1897. You can also find us on Facebook at SABC Unwrap Africa and on X at SABC News_TV. Let's have a look at the stories that made headlines on the continent this week. The death toll from an attack over the weekend in Nigeria's Benue state has climbed to 150. Earlier this week, villagers were counting the dead and looking for dozens of people who were still missing. Sudan's Prime Minister Dr. Camille El-Tayeb Idris has ordered the reopening of universities in Khartoum after attacks on university buildings as well as research centres. He says a proper assessment of damages and repairs will be done. Mali has started construction of a new Russian-backed gold refinery, which the country's military leader says will take it closer to asserting control over its natural resources. At least 60 people are feared missing at sea after 2 deadly shipwrecks off the coast of Libya in recent days. A Nigerian animation movie, Dance of the Crocodiles, has been selected by the Annecy International Animation Film Festival's Hidden Gems, the Global Stories from Nigeria showcase. So the former Zambian President Edgar Lungu could be buried in South Africa this coming week. That's according to his family. It follows the Lungu family and the Zambian government failing to reach an agreement on funeral arrangements. The family has since taken the decision to bury him in South Africa. This is where Lungu died while receiving specialized medical treatment a few weeks ago. In a statement, the Zambian government has also denied claims that the national mourning period for Lungu has now been cancelled. It says that President Hakainde Hichilema has instead extended the period. It also says the extension was granted in good faith to accommodate the wishes of the Lungu family, who've asked for more time. The government says that under normal circumstances, the official mourning period nationally for a former head of state is 7 days. Now, in this case, the Zambian government says President Hichilema exercised his discretion and goodwill to extend that period. And we did ask you right at the beginning of the program for your thoughts then on the fallout between the Lungu family and the current Zambian government. They've begun to come in. Let's have a look at what some of you are saying. Got one here from Minister of Potholes, Graham Ncube, who says many South African freedom fighters were buried in Zambia and locals tended to their graves. Unfortunately, this is not spoken about. Another one here says, it's not like South Africa will lose something. I don't see any problem. South Africa is Africa. Do not disturb the dead. Nothing new. It happened to Mugabe. He chose to be buried in his rural area and not at the National Heroes Acre. Respecting the wishes of the deceased is a widely recognized ethical and cultural norm. One last one, perhaps. South Africa is his home. Let's allow President Lungu to rest in peace here. The two countries have strong historical ties, and many of our struggle heroes died and were buried in Zambia during the dark period. This is a reference to the apartheid years. Well, as tension is escalating in the Middle East, Uganda has now pulled out dozens of its nationals from Iran. Most of them were there to study at local universities. SABC's Michael Baleke reports.
After nearly 2 days on the road, Uganda's evacuation from Iran is being seen as a diplomatic and logistical success. 45 Ugandans, including 42 students, crossed into Turkey after grueling 42-hour bus journey. The evacuation was led by the Ugandan government and coordinated through its embassy in Tehran.
We are trying our best to make sure that all our nationals are out of Iran. This is because the conflict has continued and we are not sure of when it will come to an end. The government has committed itself to making sure that the safety of our nationals is a priority.
The group is now in temporary accommodation in Istanbul as officials plan their return home. Another 65 Ugandans, mostly students, remain in Iran. Officials say they chose to stay behind. Uganda has since moved its embassy operations to Ankara and set up an emergency evacuation desk. The evacuation follows travel warnings by several African and global missions as fears grow over worsening tensions involving Iran and regional rivals. For South Africans, it's a reminder of the risks African nationals face abroad. Pretoria has previously carried out similar evacuations in conflict zones like Ukraine and Sudan. Iran hosts hundreds of African students attracted by scholarships and affordable education programs. But with the current crisis, families and governments are being forced to rethink their options. Uganda's Foreign Affairs Ministry says it's closely monitoring those still in Iran. Michael Baleke, SABC News, Kampala.
And when Unwrap Africa continues, we talk fashion and philanthropy with Dr. Precious Moloi-Motsepe. Stay with us. Hello and welcome back to Unwrap Africa with me, Tembekile Mkhototo. Our guest today is possibly one of the most influential women in South Africa and on the rest of the continent. She runs, among many other things, AFI, Africa Fashion International. She's also responsible for the Motsepe Foundation. Who am I talking about? Well, Dr. Precious Moloi-Motsepe is our guest on the program this evening. Doctor, good to have you on Unwrap Africa. We're speaking to you at an exciting time, right? Because you've just come out of a season where a lot of your work has just been recognized on the continent and internationally. Let's perhaps start with the continental honor, making this list of the 100 most reputable African leaders. Is it different for you when the acknowledgement comes from the continent?
Well, thank you so much for having me on this program, and it's really good to see you. I think getting recognition, whether it's at home or on the continent, is not what one works towards. You just simply do your work because it is meaningful and because you live for the purpose of the work that you do. It is humbling to receive that recognition, really, because particularly coming from your people on the continent, when they say, we can see you, it's encouraging.
It's incredible because even when you were speaking, when you were inducted into the Hall of Fame with all these other incredible women recently, what you said was basically that with the recognition, it's important to take it and turn even that into something more meaningful, creating a safe space for women to not just be, but to thrive. How do you go about doing that then, given the many hats that you wear?
You know, it's very difficult to think about it. Yes, you plan, you do your strategy, but you mostly just do. If you think about my career, I studied medicine, I went into fashion, I went into philanthropy. I never thought I would take that path, you know. Particularly being a young girl who grew up in the township during the apartheid era. I was just joking with a colleague of mine that it's from fighting to get onto a train at Merafe Station in Soweto, and then you end up on a platform in Seattle. You can't even begin to understand how that happened so quickly. So I think for me, it is important, and which is what I always try and do. I always think of that young girl from Soweto who was given such opportunities, and I try and see how I can find other young people who deserve opportunities like that, so that they can become the best of what they possibly could be. And not just for themselves, but for their families, for their communities, for our country and for our continent. I think it is important that as we rise, we lift.
And having listened to you speak over the years, yes, some of these are business ventures, but one also gets the sense that much of what you do is born perhaps out of a sense of duty. Am I right? Duty to the country?
That's an interesting one. Let's take Bill Gates, for instance. He builds Microsoft. Yes, it's a commercial venture. How many people has it employed? How many businesses has it turned around and made it possible for us to do the things we do? I don't think he set out thinking that I'm doing this out of duty. He did what he was passionate about, and we felt right for him, and it turned out into something big. Is it a sense of duty? I think yes. In all of us, sometimes you feel a sense of purpose, to realize your higher self, and you're always living up to that. And if you're right on the right path, and guided by your values, somehow you connect with that higher self, and it comes across as, yes, something that you do in a philanthropic sense, whether it's in business, you still do good. You run your business to do good.
And when do you know, what tells you that it's time to make that move? Is it something internal? A medical doctor by profession, then venturing into fashion, and all your other business ventures, but also there is this philanthropic work that you do with the Motsepe Foundation. What informs when to start the next chapter?
It's very difficult really to say, because like I said, there is this word that they say in English, synchronicity. It's almost as though when you are on the right path, things fall into place. So you start off as a young person and you plant seeds, and sometimes you don't know why you do things. You're doing the right things, but you're not sure why. And at some stage, it somehow all comes together. It gels, and then you say, oh, that's why I did that. It makes sense now. But as you go about it, I think it's not easy to pinpoint and say. Of course, because I'm in those spaces, I can see the opportunities. I have my medical background. You and I work with the youth. We've done youth programs together, and I can bring my medical knowledge into that space. We do philanthropic work, development forums, and I see things from a medical perspective. I still wear my doctor's hat, and I can wear my mommy hat. I can wear all the other hats that I have, and somehow things seem to gel. I think I'm very fortunate that I have all those resources and spaces to tap into, and somehow they seem to work together.
And your life and career have covered such a vast amount of ground. What do you want to do next? What's in the immediate future for you? What perhaps is more longer term here at home, perhaps on the continent, and then on the more global stage?
Well, that's a very difficult one to answer. I know there's so many. It's all God's plans. You don't have any plans. You can make plans, but
they say He laughs.
Exactly. That's true. So I just always get up inspired to do something. That's what really drives me. 3 boys, no grandchildren yet.
Is that a message for them?
Wink, wink.
Hi, boys. We've heard it.
But also having come back from Seattle, from that International Women's Forum award, which has also inspired me to want to do more for the youth and women on the continent, So there are a lot of exciting projects that I may not get involved with, but I know I can help champion with the young people that are now coming up and hopefully hand over the baton to more young people.
And is that your sweet spot, by the way, family?
Oh, absolutely. I think most of us, at the end of the day, you think about the time you spent with your family, and the impact you've left on them. Yes, you are this big CEO or whatever, but I guess your family matters more than anything.
And a parting shot then to all the South Africans and other Africans who will see this conversation when it airs. If you could leave them with a thought, what would it be?
We all have a seed of greatness in us, and it's just up to us to find it and live and make it happen. We are all great, all of us, every one of us. God put greatness in us.
Dr. Precious MoloiMotsepe, a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much. Well, this week we've been out exploring Mozambican cuisine at Pontina de Shai Shai. It's a restaurant based here in Johannesburg, where our team was treated to Mozambique's most mouth-watering signature dishes.
Welcome to Pontina de Shai Shai. Please follow me. This dish, it's a king prawns, Mozambican king prawns, fresh. We make it with garlic, lemon juice, and we serve it, can be with chips, with rice, coconut rice. That's our best preference. This is the red fish, red snapper. It's also a popular Mozambican fish. It's delicious served grilled, marinated with lemon, salt, and garlic. We can also make it as a stew. We pair it can be paired with boiled potato, but this one is with chips and salad. It's very delicious, and you also can pour a little bit of your lemon butter on top, and it's a wonderful dish.
Tell me why Mozambique is famous for the red fish.
Well, I think Mozambican is famous for the red fish. It's one of the most popular there. It's a good, tasty fish, not too expensive, and then ended up being very popular. This liquor, it's a masala liquor. Masala is a wild fruit from Mozambique. Yes, so we make this liquor, and we prepare with it a drink called caipirinha. And then we mix the masala liquor with the masala pulp, mixed with the rum and ice and some lemon. It's very, very delicious. One of the best wild fruits from Mozambique.
Before we go, I want to have a look at more of your thoughts regarding the decision to bury former Zambian President Edgar Lungu in South Africa following disagreements between his family and the government back home. Some of those comments have come in. Let's see what people are saying. Got one here saying from X that South Africa must not accept that. Lungu's family must rethink the decision that they've made under emotions. And then another person says it's not a wise move. It will be costly for the grandchildren to embark on a pilgrimage from Zambia to see their grandfather's grave, because we honor our ancestors as Africans. And a final thought, one here says, I thought of cremation. Our graveyards are full. Neighbors can't come here when they're alive and still force their way in after dying. And those are just some of the opinions regarding the decision to possibly bury the former Zambian President Edgar Lungu in South Africa. And before we go, in fact, we want to play out this week with scenes of amazing snowfall in the Lesotho region. And we hope you have yourselves a wonderful Sunday further and a great week ahead. And remember to stay warm. Bye-bye.
And winter temperatures can get down to -7 degrees centigrade.
Jimmy,